So, what do you do for a living? I'm a mother of a 5-year-old daughter, and she is my sunshine. She keeps asking me, Mommy, what do you do for a living? I tell her I produce movies. Well, now, of course, she wouldn't understand what that really means. But every time I answered this question, I imagine myself sitting next to her and watching my favorite movie of all time, La Vita è Bella, by Roberto Benigni. I don't know if you've watched it before. Please raise your hand if you've watched La Vita è Bella. Now, for those who didn't, please make sure to watch it tonight. One of the greatest lessons I've learned from this movie is to love life despite the war, despite the struggle, despite the pain, despite the horror, and despite the stress that we face every single day. Life is beautiful, but only to those who choose to make it so. It's like us, the producers, and this is our power, right? We find a story that not necessarily a story that shows us what is or what is reality, but a story that shows us what could be, and sometimes what should be. I'm extremely happy to introduce you today to our panelists who are brave enough and powerful to show us what could be. I'm not gonna introduce them the usual way or the traditional way because I believe they're known for the work they're doing. Instead, I wanna tell you what I've learned about their impact they're doing. Hussein Fakhri, I've learned that he's a true trailblazer, bringing bold and daring ideas to the table. Souha Assal, I've come to see how she's redefining how the world perceives Arabic content. Fadi Ismail, I've understood his commitment to elevating Arab content to meet international standards. And Kerim Turna, I've come to appreciate the impact of rapid growth built on strategic and strong partnerships. Welcome to the panel. Let's start by highlighting the foundation of today's discussion. Success in co-productions is often framed around market performance or critical acclaim. And by the way, Souha, congratulations on your award for Best Regional Adaptation of a Foreign Format for Lunchbox.
Thank you very much.
But beyond awards and revenue, and this is a question to all the panelists, let's start by defining success in co-productions. What does a successful co-production look like to you? Let's start with you, Fadi.
Thank you, Zeina. Before I start with success, I want to start with co-production. Before we have success, we have to have co-production. Now, I love co-production as a concept, as a game changer. Unfortunately, so far, it's not changing anything. When we have a big issue or a big challenge, let's try to dissect it into smaller parts so that we can control the discussion. What is co-production and what kinds of co-production? Are we talking about co-productions between companies and studios, two companies? Now, I'd love to talk about that because this is the first thing I've done after 25 years of MBC. The first project that I did as an independent producer was a co-production with a colleague of mine, two production companies coming together and doing what co-producers should do. I'll talk about it later. But then there is a co-production between production companies and broadcasters, and that is another kind. And finally, there is a kind of co-production between broadcasters themselves. And I'll give an example, and it's something I'm proud of because I had something to do with it. It's the biggest Arab historical series, since we were talking this morning about historical from Turkey. The biggest Arab historical series was a co-production in 2012 between MBC and Qatar TV, and it was about Al-Farouq Omar. And this is something that always is a source of pride, that we have made what is impossible possible. That is the first criteria of success for a co-production. If it allows you to do what is impossible alone, to do it because you are partnering with others, then that's the beginning of the success. It's not the only one, but this is the success. So for me, to be able to challenge oneself to compromise, because co-productions involve lots of compromises. You are not alone. Our egos have to be under control. We have partners, and they have the right, and it will take time and patience to have synergy and be on the same page creatively and financially and the whole process. So that is a challenge. And I wonder, if it was that easy, then why is it that I don't know who among those of us here who follows the Arabic drama, for example, and I'm not talking about films, because films might be a bit easier, and there are many co-productions existing as we speak. But I personally cannot count more than few, if any, co-productions in series happening now. And if there are, and I'm sure there will be, and if somebody knows as examples, it will be maybe 5, 10, 15% of the total number of series produced every year, which, according to, I asked this question, Hiba, before, from the 200 or 300 series produced every year in the Arab world, I don't know what's the number of co-productions, but I doubt it will be more than 10%.
So when you say you made the impossible possible, can you give me one concrete example? What was the biggest challenge that you did and you turned it into a possible?
Historical series have to be impressive visually. You cannot tell a story about historical series by having two lead actors sitting and talking about it. You have to see it, you have to feel it, you have to live visually and be impressed by it. That is a lot of cost. Anything,
yes, for sure.
Anything that is period drama, historical drama, is costly. That's why in the whole world they try to stay away from period drama. And if you want to do it impressively, you have to have a big budget. Now, who can afford big budgets in the Middle East? I don't know. It's not easy. So what is impossible is to have the impressive quality that producers would love to see. And in my opinion, that is only possible if you join others who have the same feeling, the same mentality, the same strategy, and put your hands together, first financially, but also creatively, and divide the markets, the territories. That's a big discussion.
And probably that's why since 2012, we didn't have something that is equal to Omar, right? Probably. You need that to happen.
I think so, but I'm biased.
Okay. Souha?
Actually, I would like to echo on what Fadi was saying.
I don't think
It's working, right?
yes.
We need to move beyond, the financial revenues. We need to move beyond the recognition. But we are starting to get into the right path, because this is usually the beginning to get into co-productions. He's mentioned that you need to leave an impact and you need to be impressed by the content. And this is where I think it is the authenticity of engagement with the story in the region is what is missing. So the idea is to activate the entire content ecosystem to serve the story and try to give impetus to the industry so that they can work together in authenticity, whether we're talking about casting, whether we're talking about like every single aspect of production. And this is where you're gonna be able to connect with the audience and have content that would actually resonate with them deeply. So we need to move away or a little bit beyond doing things for the sake of, and just do things for the sake of creating a story that will connect and resonate with the audience.
Okay, if you want to give me just one tip, how to start to be authentic to the story.
In Arabic, we say عطى الخبز للخباز usually. But I think, it's very important to focus on the story itself. Usually we keep into consideration a lot the distribution side of it. So we focus on what would a broadcaster like to see on the screen. You may see, for example, a story where it would require a certain talent on screen. Yet you have to replace this because probably someone else will give you a better value when you distribute to actually have this distributed and have it revenue generating. So moving away from the revenue and the recognition, I think it's the focus on the story.
Okay, thank you. That's a great insight. Hussein?
Thanks. Key to successful co-production for us, I mean, in Qatar we have a very small domestic market. We have to live by co-productions. And for us, co-production is something that will allow us to enter into new markets, will allow us to go beyond our sort of geographical limitations. And so far we've done a Jordanian co-production, we've done an Iranian co-production, we're doing a Kuwaiti co-production, we have an Egyptian co-production. So we're really living by that. I mean, that's the big sort of objective for us, to allow us to really be pan-Arab and pan-regional. And as Fadi alluded to, you need to put your egos aside. You need to believe in the project. You need to allow the creatives to do the creative work. And that has to be agreed on from day one. If you get into this co-production and then decide, actually, I don't like the direction of this, it's a disaster. So you have to be an adult when it comes to getting into those agreements.
So probably success to you is more of a cultural impact, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, the bottom line is the reason you get into co-production is to allow you to do something that you wouldn't be able to do alone. If you can do it alone and you can finance it alone, then why would you get into co-production? It brings a new skill set, it allows you to enter new markets, it opens up maybe some talent that you didn't have access to. So they're all the reasons for a co-production in our mind.
Yeah. Kerim?
Yeah, I think the basic issue with the co-productions is that we have to understand, if I have a limited amount of money, and if you have limited amount of money, that we cannot afford to buy a bottle of water and we are very thirsty, so standalone we cannot buy that water, so let's do it. This is absolutely the fact. But we have to answer why people are not able to do that. I guess the answer is already perfectly given here. That's I think the number one thing. But we also have to, I believe, see and analyze this from the production perspective, from the product itself. What do we want to do? Do we want to just produce something that will work in the local market, or do we want something that will go all around the world? I think here in this region we have to go beyond, and I guess there is a great advantage here, the language. For, of course, movies, that is very easy. For series, there is there are some other obstacles that needs to be overcome. But is this possible? That we have been seeing a lot of examples. But one thing that I want to just add before your question maybe is that we have really great advantages. I'm not specifically talking about MENA only. I would like to, as I'm a Turkish citizen, I would like to add, for example, between Turkey and MENA, we have great advantages. I have had a dinner yesterday with my friends. I have been coming here so often, traveling all around MENA for a very long time, but I didn't know about the fact that there is a dessert in Egypt called Omali. I felt in love with that, but we have the same, a little bit different, and we have the same. So we share a lot of things in common, which can enable to do great things that can travel all around the world, which will result with profitable business, which is what we are all looking for, I guess.
You've mentioned last time when we were talking about the IP. Don't you think this is something successful as well, like one aspect related to co-production? You tapped into the IP?
It has to be. It has to be. I mean, of course, we can give a very brief definition of IP, but from my perspective, the real IP is that the series or the movies that we can watch multiple times. If it's just one time, it's just popcorn.
Yeah.
But if you can watch it multiple times after 10 years, 20 years, that is IP. And if the product that you are producing cannot be consumed, that you just make your daily life. The other product is the real IP.
Thank you for these insights. Now that we've defined success, we tapped into the authenticity of the story, the cultural impact, how to make impossible possible, and how to compromise as a key point as well, and how to travel the content beyond. Let me ask you, since you talked about the co-productions, and since you tapped into the many faces that we have in co-productions, but do you think we have a clear understanding of what true co-production means? You've mentioned that we need to compromise, and you've mentioned that there's a kind of a mindset. Can you please explore that area?
At the risk of having lots of my producer friends not happy with how I'm going to describe our MENA industry, it is still irrational. It's still chaotic. And therefore, there are so many definitions and practices that we're not following. We are still happy with how we are and don't want to take risks. Now, is that good or bad? No, there are circumstances that make us every year get surprised that Ramadan is coming and we have to rush and prepare ourselves. Now, is that a genetic defect? No. This has to do with the ecosystem, with the economy of... A lot of things is economy. Now, what is true... actually, I did not mention one kind of co-productions in the divisions. We cannot mix or compare apples and bananas. We have co-productions between Arab companies, broadcasters, and then there is possible co-productions between Arab companies, broadcasters, and the rest of the world. What's the difference? Economy. What do I mean? Okay, let's talk numbers. I know you like numbers. I know that I have so many numbers, and some of which I can talk about, and some I cannot. What I can talk about is that if we want to compare apples to apples, then all Arab countries, all Arab producers are working in the range of an episode cost of 100 to 200. I'm not talking about historical series. Historical series are special, much more expensive. But for the rest, we're talking about $100 to $200,000 per episode cost that one has to incur if you want to produce. Now, that is across MENA. Therefore, there is a common economic language in terms of cost versus potential revenue. And therefore, the idea of co-productions can make sense because we're talking about the same range. So we can enter into co-productions based on that understanding. With Turkey, I think, if you allow me to intrude on the Turkish production cost, the TV hour, because their unit is 120 minutes as in general, and that is 3 TV hours. So that 3 TV hours until yesterday, I don't know what's today, the dollar exchange, the deflation, but it was something around $300,000 plus or minus 100. Forgive my big range, which means it's 100,000 per episode. So we have a common language. That's the bottom line. We can and we should explore win-win situations with the Turks. Now, what doesn't make sense is to rush and say we want to do a co-production with Spain, because it just happened that I was on the phone 2 days ago with a friend of mine, executive in Spain, and I asked him the question, what's the average cost per TV hour in Spain now? He said around 1.2 million euros, around plus or minus 100, 200. And Spain is not as expensive as the UK or Germany. So how do we do co-production between a 1 TV hour of 100,000, 200, 300,000 and 1.2 million? That's where it becomes more difficult and challenging. Doesn't mean, I don't want to be pessimistic because there are solutions, but I'm not, don't ask me now.
We're gonna tap into another question for the challenges.
I think it makes sense. And there is an economic rationale. When Hussein said, in Qatar we have a small market and we have to do a co-production with the Kuwait and the Egyptian. This is the simplest ABC of co-production. You have a joint interest of enlarging your potential reach of this content creatively, culturally, but also economically by having partners who know that other region or countries and who can help the product to be sold, to reach and to make money rather than stay in your own small territory or big territory, but many territories. So there is an economic rationale for cooperation, and at the end of the day, to define what is true, to answer your question directly, I don't think there's one definition, because some would consider co-investing as a co-production, whereby I just go to Hussein or give money to a project I like, but I don't do any kind of creative contribution.
Co-investment.
So is that a co-production? If you want to call it, yes, because it's cooperation, but technically it's co-investment now. So let's not spend much time about defining something that is very elusive, as long as the result is better product, higher quality, higher potential of sales, and higher storytelling ability, as you were saying.
Thank you for the insights. I think we should set another session regarding the facts and get all the info from you. Souha, can you tell me, please, if we have the understanding of co-production in MENA?
I would say it's a yes and no at the same time, because co-production or a true co-production is a perspective. It all depends on the partners that are coming together. Each partner would have a different goal from probably collaborating with someone else. So it's very important to understand what are the needs of each partner when you are coming together for a co-production. If you want to ask me whether we're getting there, we are. It's a learning curve. Currently, in this MENA region, it's limited to probably financing and distribution deals. And we are lacking the collaborative efforts when it is related to cross-cultural learnings, understanding what the different regions would have in terms of cultural nuances, or even in terms of the production itself and how to execute it, and you can come out for an output that is successful. So yes and no for me. And I would like just to add one point related to the Turkish content, because Mr. Fadi was saying that it is a 3-hour and you will need to divide it. That's why we currently see a shift in the Turkish market where they're moving from the weeklies into dailies as well. And to do such a move, it was out of the need of increasing the productions and to be able to take it and travel outside, because there has been a lot of limitation because of the economy in the market.
That's a fair point. Yeah, thank you. Hussein?
The short answer is no. I don't think we have done it properly, but that's okay. We're still young. If we were to personify our industry, we're still teenagers. So we're hormonal and we're moody and, sometimes chaotic. And
So
that's
you're
okay.
with the organic approach.
Look, we have
it
to
be.
learn. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to have flops. We're going to have some success, but that's what it's all about. And that's why we keep on saying you need to be brave. You need to be taking chances. You need to push forward, because we will find our way eventually. I mean, we can't base our structure on how co-productions are done internationally. We're a different market. We're a different makeup. We're a different culture. So I just think we need to keep on pushing through, stay positive,
Yeah.
and we'll grow up eventually.
I love the positivity. Kerim?
I guess, for me, the best perspective that I should put here is that, I cannot say yes or no to answer this question, but if yes, I know the outcome. If yes, if this is done in a proper way, and if you allow me, I also would love to add the broadcasters or platforms into this game, because they are the essential, vital part of the whole big picture. Of course, producers, they are extremely important, but broadcasters, platforms are the vital, essential part of this, and they can be the game changers. I know the outcome can be great for the whole industry.
Okay, amazing. Now that we've discussed the regional understanding of co-productions, let's look at the potential they hold. So what are the benefits and the opportunities of focusing on intra-Arab or pan-Arab co-productions, whether in movies or series, Fadi?
The simplest is the business angle, whereby instead of, if you have $1 million and you want to spend it and you're alone, you spend it on one series. If you have $1 million and your partner has another million, therefore you can have 2 series and mitigate the risk by dividing.
Diversification.
By diversification, mitigating risks. Number one, that's on the negative side, mitigating risk. On the positive side, and that depends on the true understanding. If there's a creative, if you're doing a Kuwaiti Egyptian co-production, and you have the ambition to sell in Egypt, you have to have an understanding of the Egyptian market, Egyptian society, Egyptian sales mechanism. That is done, could be through partnership. So mitigating the risk, increasing the opportunities, and the cultural approach and the creativity. But then the disadvantage of that is that when you put executives together and when you put writers of different regions or broadcast or producer sides together, it will take longer than when you're alone to be able to get to from A to Z. And time is money. So there is a chance that things will take more time than what you like, and that's why co-production, I don't want to say long-term, but it's short to medium-term venture rather than a push button when you are on your own with all the risks of being alone.
Yeah. Souha?
Well, it's a very good question, because whenever we're talking about pan-Arab or intra-Arab productions, we are referring to the productions that are happening here and how can we take it to international markets. But are we really taking our productions in our region across sub-regions? We are still lacking that part. So we have a lot of reach of the content that is Egyptian produced, pan-Arab, and we have seen that it has the highest reach among these regions. But do we see GCC content traveling to North Africa, for example, to Al-Maghrib Al-Arabi? Or we see any content from Al-Maghrib traveling across regions? We don't. So the moment we actually are able to crack this internally from the MENA region, we will be able to take this content to international. Because the moment we understand the cultural differences and we're able to embed them in a story that will resonate with everyone within the region, we don't need to put an effort and say, oh my God, how can we take it to the international market? It will travel organically without our, push. But yes, this doesn't mean that we shouldn't put any efforts. But producing more pan-Arab content will definitely help us enlarge the market size, because in this case, you will be able to increase your reach within the region before you go to international markets. And in this case, I do predict that we're going to have much more productions that are pan-Arab, that involves organically different cultures together, and we'll have, content traveling abroad soon.
Amazing. Thank you, Souha. Hussein?
Intra-Arab and pan-Arab, I believe, in this phase is key to our success. We have a big market. We have 400 million Arabic speakers that we haven't unlocked yet in our region. So we should unify and unlock that market first of all. And by doing that, that will allow us to open up international markets, as Souha said, by default. It will happen organically. So intra-Arab, pan-Arab, from across the region right now, unlock our domestic market of MENA, the 400 million Arabic speakers. That should be our primary focus. So yes, the answer to your question, utmost importance.
So what is stopping us from doing so? Is it lack of good story? Is it like the three of you, you all mentioned that we have some...
It's happening. It's happening slowly. We have some egos to overcome. We have some, sort of cultural differences that we need to overcome, but we're getting there. And again, I am very optimistic. We have seen it with the conversations that we're having, with the projects that we're getting involved in. Everybody wants this. It's just finding the way to do it properly, showing the proof of concept, demonstrating that it's commercially viable, allowing people to see that actually, wow, if we do this, and we open up the Arab market, there's some money to be made, which allows us to do some more content and make some more money. So proof of concept is required at this stage.
So we need more openness, we need more readiness.
Absolutely, it's definitely openness, and also openness in the acquisition side. Because, so for us, again, we go back to the revenue generation and awards. When we are creating any content, we cannot just be focusing on the story, because it's not going to be just sustainable. We want to get there, but also we will need the support of the other party in the same value chain. So we will need people to support. So there has to be a shift in the acquisition mindset when it comes to content, to focus more on the story and what the story brings in, rather than who will be happy to see this person on screen.
And take more risk. We've discussed the advantages of different types of co-production. Now let's consider where, after we mentioned all the opportunities and these things, so let's look at successful examples from similar markets. Kerim, could you share please an example of how Turkey has successfully bridged local and global markets through co-productions?
This is actually a long story, but I will just try to give a brief information about our story. The Turkish, but I guess we have to start from another perspective, because the Turkish market is somehow without that much of plan working, and has historically worked correctly. We have a relatively healthy advertisement landscape that feeds the broadcasters. and broadcasters feeds the production environment. Producers, they present their stories, their projects. They are getting commissioned by the broadcasters. In the past, most of the IPs, they were held by the broadcasters, the ones which were investing. In exchange, the producers, they never received in the past. They never received any revenues from the global distribution. Then it changed. After the success, producers start to get those global distribution revenues. So they started to share 50-50. And then the producers became so strong that they could still hold the IP rights with them. And that also changed the whole dynamics of the industry. Nowadays, for example, in Turkey, the producers are stronger than some of them, of course, not all of them, but some of them, and the mainstream producers. I can say that from my perspective, that they are even stronger than the platforms or producers. How can I prove it? We are watching maybe on some platforms on Shahid the Arabic shows, as maybe some of you heard in the previous panel, that we are watching shows that are produced by Turkish companies. Those shows are Arabic shows based on Turkish IPs that they have previously produced for those broadcasters. So see how the producers became. So you might ask, all right, I asked you a question about co-productions, but you are giving me a totally different perspective. Why am I trying to explain this? Is actually, I think in order to go to that global success level, there should be some certain dynamics. There's a need for a change in those dynamics, the ecosystem. However, can we, all right, let's change it. Is that so possible? No, of course not. But in order to overcome that problem is co-productions. So if we can create the correct model where we include the broadcasters, the investors, the producers, the distributors, so we can create a healthy ecosystem that goes to these targets quicker.
Fadi.
Kerim mentioned that co-production is the solution of a situation in Turkey, which is different. Here, the producers do not have that same power, but still there are some lessons from what happened in Turkey. And one of the main challenges here is that before we have co-productions, we have to have good organized productions. What I'm trying to say is that producers to come together and see the benefits of co-production to elevate the product, to be able to do what is impossible possible, they need to be financed. Now, the sources of finance in this part of the world are rare. If you don't manage to get a response from MBC or Shahid, then who do you go to? If you're in the film, you go to Vox. If you're in Saudi Arabia, you go to movies. If you are in Dubai, you go to Dubai TV. If you're in Abu Dhabi. But that doesn't mean there is enough finance so that you can do what you want to do. So in order to have an ecosystem that encourages co-production, you have to have an ecosystem that encourages production from financial point of view without having to have every single content commissioned by somebody. When you are commissioned, it means you're left with nothing as IP. You just worked, gave your time and effort to whoever commissioned and paid, rightly so, who wants to keep the IP for themselves, and you are out of the game until you do the next project. That's not everything that happens everywhere else, whether in Turkey or Europe. A lot of producers have the power to negotiate and keep IPs, but without finance sources, you can't do that. And that's a problem for production as well as co-production.
So what you're looking for is to have a real industry in the region. And when we have a real industry, we have the real understanding, investors, people to believe in your idea, to invest in it, and to co-produce, and to have this open-mindedness. Kerim, Fadi has mentioned before that there are lessons from Turkish, Latin American, and international partnerships that could be applied to MENA co-productions. Can you tell me just one or two tips?
Here's the thing. What we have, I think this definition issue is really key, because I'm sorry, I have to come back to that, because like co-productions in real meanings, we don't do it in Turkey. We just do co-finance, right? And because co-finance is very basic, it's of course much more easier, because believe or not, the business development side of it is easy, rather than the co-development. I mean, I really appreciate all the efforts of the creative people, the producers. That's really something different. I mean, not everyone has all that talent as producers, and I have a producer title. However, I am an executive producer. I am a affiliate producer, right? Because I am building the business, but I am not a producer in that sense. Therefore, coming back to your question, if that definition is correctly made, I can give those examples, because I don't want to say that, hey, we have created a great success with co-productions. This is something that we have not done. But the powerful, the most important thing is that create that product that travels everywhere. This is the key. Very basic, because everyone, if you are investing, you want to recoup your money. And the easiest way to recoup your money goes through the product that sells everywhere easily. And as of today, that's a Turkish product. Maybe tomorrow, this will be the Arabic product. How we did it? With Latin America, with Asia. It's actually very simple. As I have mentioned, since this product has proven its success, and what we have also done is that we have defined the target audience of those products and the needs of those target audience. Obviously, Turkish content, and I believe Arabic content also fits into that category. I don't, in the short term, to be honest, in the short term, for example, I don't see the Turkish content, I don't see them watching on prime time in the US on free-to-air networks. This is not going to happen in the short. Hopefully I will be wrong, but I don't see this. And I also don't see the Arabic product on. So who are our clients? We need to know. I'm sorry, I'm just, this is, I guess, my role to speak on over the international perspective. So who are our clients? Emerging markets. What is their needs? And if we can produce such content, we can easily do that. Therefore, co-productions co-productions for an Arabic product between Latin America and MENA, I think it's just, we don't need to talk about that right now. Between the region or between the territories where you talk about the same product, similar product, that's totally fine for now.
I would
Yes,
like
Souha, you
just
want
to
to
add
add?
one thing, because this brings me to the discussion of IP, and I don't think we have a full understanding of what an IP is yet. So we are still learning to understand how to deal with the IPs before it was just a product. I think it's the moment when we move away from treating an IP like a stepson, and we treat them as our own child. That's when you know things will be very different.
That's nice. Are we good on time? I think we can take some questions from the audience. Do you have any questions? Sorry, I didn't see who raised his hand. Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Katerina. It's a fantastic panel. I'm happy to see all my friends here. So the question is as follows. As I know, Middle Eastern market normally accepts remakes from Turkey, from US. So this content is normally remade into Arabic formats. What do you think about the prospect of other less popular foreign language remakes in the Middle East? For example, Russian drama to be remade into Arabic, production, or I don't know, Indonesian drama to be remade. So some like not typical dramas to be remade into the local content. What is the prospect?
Is this question to Fadi or
Anyone who.
Fadi, please?
Katrina, the answer is very simple. I mean, when the Turkish came to this part of the world, we didn't know about the stars. We didn't know anything about the background. We just loved the stories. When Turkish content was successful in Latin America, they didn't know the stars. They didn't know anything. They just loved the stories. If we love the story from Kazakhstan or from Indonesia or from Russia, but you also need one more condition, some executives who have the gut and bold enough to experiment. And usually that is not easy because the market here is not, advertising-wise, Kerim said something about Turkey, which is important. They have a very robust advertising industry that supported the channels taking risks somehow. We don't have that now here. So taking risks is a bit more challenging, but there will be experimentation. There will be the ability to take. I'll give one example recently, without going to Indonesia. I saw some Libyan content on Shahid. What is this? I didn't expect that. And I was curious to see one series. And I said, so now this is something new to me and to others. So, but what's the difference? They didn't have to invest in it. It's an acquisition. So somebody else
Had to take the risk.
did it and brought it as a first step to show it. Now, who will take the challenge and be the first? I salute that, whoever that person, executive is.
Thank you, Fadi. Next question.
Hi, everyone. So when we talk about the Middle East, automatically we think about Egypt, Lebanon, Syria. But there is another part of the world. You highlighted that the Maghreb countries. Today, as a Tunisian, by the way, we are able to understand different dialects, but the other part of the world, like Egyptian, Lebanese too, are not able to understand us. However, I don't know if you have an idea about the last movie of the famous Egyptian actors, Hind Sabri. The last movie, Ola.
Finding Ola.
Exactly. So she tried to introduce the Tunisian dialect, Tunisian actors, French also language, Tunisian music, and it was a success. I think you have an idea about what she did, like how Egyptians appreciated that. My question is, do you think that there is an opportunity in Maghreb countries? Honestly, please.
Who would like to answer?
You mean an opportunity for Maghreb content for the rest of the Arab world, or vice versa? Vice versa. So yes, and Maghreb is a huge part of our Arab world. It has to be. huge part of it. And that is key to our success. And when we talk about Pan-Arab, we're talking about everybody from Morocco all the way across. So yes, there's absolutely an opportunity, and it's a two-way thing. You have a wonderful film industry in Tunisia and across the Maghreb. And obviously that's going to add to our strength as Arab filmmakers and Arab co-producers. So the short answer is absolutely yes, and without the Maghreb, we are not successful.
And adding to what Hussein said, that we have seen a lot of stars that are emerging from Al-Maghreb. So as you mentioned, we have Dafar Al-Abdin, we have also Hind Sabri, and we have Aisha, I think, as well. I can just
Three
recall the full
Daughters,
name.
the movie as
So
well was a
there are a lot of potential, and even in a recent, I think, research that was done by Parrot, I think it was presented at the co-production salon in Capsat last year, actually this year in May. There was also a discussion of one of the content that actually during Ramadan, it showed a lot of viewership on one of the platforms. So there seemed to be that people are connected to the story. And now with the regional platforms that we have and also international platforms, it's opening up door. The reach is increasing. And with AI and for subtitling and dubbing, I think this would definitely help for us to start, getting introduced for content from that region.
Fadi.
Netflix has more than 50% now, as we speak, of non-English language content. And if we like something, we have the choice either listen to it in English or in its original language. There's nothing to stop Tunisian, Moroccan content, especially that it has the same culture more or less, to become the next big thing. Nothing theoretically. The problem is now we have an overkill of what is called now paralysis of choices. We open any of the platforms which has all this diversity, and we are inundated with content, and we don't know where to start, what to look for. And that's the most dangerous thing. It's not about having good content, it's finding it. And that's another challenge for another discussion.
Thank you, Fadi. I'm going to take the last question.
Soha, I'll avoid asking questions to you. I ask you a lot at office. This is actually for Hussein and leading on to Fadi. Hussein, a few days back, we were discussing the Bedouin Western, the Bedouin fantasy. It takes a lot of time to develop that sort of content at the scripting level, at the production level. And then this question is leading on to Fadi. Financing and giving this whole industry, which has been almost 30, 40 years in industry status. What are we doing at the back to look at least within the GCC levels to get banks, insurance companies and others to accept this as an industry that is quite a lot of people employed here? Is there anything from your end? And Fadi, I know you have been working on this for some time. Need your inputs.
So in terms of financing, I can only speak for ourselves in Qatar. We're self-financing everything at the moment, rightly or wrongly. And they say, pioneers get shot and settlers get rich. We're hoping to be pioneering, but to get rich. But let's see. What we're doing is we're introducing there's a film commission about to be launched in Qatar. There's a rebate and an incentive. And part of that is that it all becomes bankable. So you will take whatever rebate or incentive agreement you have with the government, and you will get finance and you'll get a line of credit from the banks. So this is something that we're already putting into place. We expect this to sort of really help the industry along. But until we see the private sector get involved, I really don't think we're going to see a step change in our industry. The private sector need to see there is money to be made here, and they will come in. As we know, in this part of the world, you go to an investor and you say, I want to build a skyscraper, here's $100 million. No questions asked. But ask them for a couple of $1 million for a film, and it's a different story. So we need to convince the private sector this is commercially viable.
Thank you, Hussein. Fadi.
I salute Hussein and Katara because they are able to experiment and take bold choices with 7 concepts, 7 ideas, one of which is fantasy, Bedouin,
Faction.
Western. The idea is fascinating, but how many Katara do we have? The problem is we don't take risks because we cannot either afford them or believe that they will go to a happy ending in terms of production. So, and that is the private sector responsibility. Totally agree. And there are initiatives that are happening with, especially the fact that we have at least 7 or 8 areas or zones in the Arab world where there is rebates. And rebates, while they are something that only comes to the pocket of the producer at the end of the process, there are some attempts to make financing possible in advance instead of rebates. So the rebate will be paid in advance, and that's how producers will be able to produce what they are supposed to produce without having a cash flow necessary. But that takes collaboration with many entities. But Manoj, you're asking us, I think you also are involved in financing efforts. So maybe this is another session for you to tell us about what you're trying to do.
Thank you, Manoj and Fadi. Before we end, I'd like to ask each one of you just to share one piece of advice, just one word before closing. I know we're out of time. Kerim, one advice to build a better future of collaboration.
Yes, I think this content world. I think that it gives me it feels like the please see this from the gourmet perspective. Food. We have Chinese, we have Asian, we have Italian, etc., etc. And some of them, they became mainstream. Turkish became mainstream in less than maybe 10 years, right? So I think Arabic content has the capacity to become mainstream globally in a very short period of time. So
Thank you, Kerim. Hussein, one advice, please.
Be bold, be brave, believe in Arabic content.
Great. Souha?
Invest in cultural exchange and move beyond doing things for the sake of
Doing
fill in the blank.
Thank you, Souha.